Welcome back to Past, Present, and Politics. So today we're in a bit of a different location because I just started my first semester at BYU. Um, and yeah, so we're in a different location. But I want to keep the history segment a little shorter than I had originally planned because I want to get to the current event as quickly as possible. But I obviously wanted to talk about 9/11 because today is the anniversary. Um, and so it's fitting. But it's a very sensitive subject, understandably. But for some reason, people use that as an excuse to not question the original narrative, which is something that I've never understood. Because if you want to, like, if you really care about something, why wouldn't you want to get to the bottom of what really happened? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if our government was behind it, or if somebody else's government was behind it, wouldn't you want to know? And so that got me thinking a little bit about different conspiracy theories that people have because there's a lot that doesn't add up with 9/11, and a lot of people, anytime people question the original narrative, it's called a conspiracy theory, which again is a lot of the time it's just ridiculous because it's a lot of them are not even conspiracy theories. A lot of them are just like actual facts that just don't add up with the story of 9/11. And so when I was looking through this, I I stumbled upon this gem of an article, which is an ADL article, obviously. And it's titled "Anti-Semitic Conspiracy Theories About 9/11 Endure 20 Years Later." Um, yeah, it's funny. Um, I don't know. It's very funny because it doesn't. It's a very very long article, and the entire article talks about, like, it just lists out all of these different conspiracy theories that people have or problems that people have with the original narrative of 9/11 and then proceeds to call them anti-Semitic. But what it doesn't do is prove any of them wrong. It just states them and is like, this is anti-Semitic, but doesn't prove it wrong, which is it's funny. So let's see. After the introduction, it just gives like a list of like popular conspiracy theories. The first one is the Mossad was behind the attacks. It says variations of this theory have circulated since 2001 and assert that the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, was behind the 9/11 attacks. The most common proof cited is the false claim that 5 Israeli Mossad agents were arrested on 9/11 by police who observed them filming and celebrating the attack. This narrative of the dancing Israelis is a recurring element of many conspiracy theories. Again, doesn't prove it wrong or anything. It just calls it anti-Semitic. But the dancing Israelis thing, I looked a lot into that because I didn't know a ton about it. But it's very, like, it's pretty solid proof. Like, I found FBI files about it. So it's not some, like, out there, I don't know, folk tale or something like that somebody made up. It's an actual investigation that was conducted by the FBI. And like when I was looking through it, a lot of it, there was a lot of stuff that said classified for reason 1.4, just stuff like that. But it did also have a lot of good information too. And so let's see. It says on instant date. See here, hold on. Okay, an investigation predicted upon the detention of 5 Israeli nationals who may have possessed information about the terrorist incident targeting the Twin Towers of New York City's World Trade Center on 9/11/2001. Both identified as Israeli nationals. Okay, so that's not a conspiracy theory. There were 5 Israeli nationals who were arrested and investigated. And according to the moving company, which they allegedly worked for, the 2 occupants and their vehicle, so this is before, let's see, they were supposed to complete a moving job in a different part of the country. So they weren't even supposed to be they weren't supposed to be there on 9/11. But the whole reason why this investigation came about was because on 9/11 there were several different people that complained that they saw um, a group of young men standing on a hill with a truck recording the events of 9/11. And the odd thing was that they didn't look distressed. They, in fact, looked very happy. And so obviously that rings a ton of a ton of bells. It brings up lots of red flags, I guess is what I should say. And so they conducted interviews with these people that filed these complaints. And the first one was a housewife, and she said that at 9 in the morning, she noticed smoke coming from the World Trade Center, and so she was looking out the window through her binoculars more closely, and from the rear view window of her apartment, and while looking in the direction of the World Trade Center, she observed 3 males kneeling on the roof of a white van located in the rear parking lot of her apartment complex. And she noticed the individuals, and it appeared as though they noticed her. And so she was describing like the way they look and stuff like that. And according to her, they were taking videos, photographs and videos, and all of the males appeared to be happy, and they were smiling and hugging each other, and they gave each other high fives. And so, and then she said that the vehicle later left the area, but she found that very suspicious. And it wasn't just her that saw this. There were 3 eyewitnesses that saw it, so there's 2 other eyewitnesses. And the second eyewitness who reported to observe it said that the van was actually out there, like on the hill where you have a good view of the World Trade Center at 8 o'clock in the morning, which, for reference, the first tower was hit at 8:46. So this was 46 minutes before the tower was even hit. They weren't where they were supposed to be, and they were perched on a hill waiting for it to happen. And then, or at least it seems like they were waiting for it to happen. And then when it happened, they had their cameras out, and they were all happy, and just not a normal reaction when a tower gets struck by a plane. Not normal at all. Anyways, and so there was a ton of information about this. It was very, very disturbing. And so they were arrested, and at the time that the vehicle was stopped, because they stopped their vehicle, there was a search and seizure conducted, and they had a ton of suspicious things. They had cameras and several personal telephones and like equipment. They had notebooks and airline tickets with immediate travel destinations, and Israeli passports. A couple of them were expired, a German passport, and thousands of dollars in cash. But oddly enough, they found no equipment that you would normally find in a moving van. So they didn't find anything like blankets or straps or ropes or boxes or dollies or rollers or work gloves. They didn't find any of that. And it says that, like, all of those things specifically in the report from the FBI. And it was observed that one of the males using to film the explosion at the World Trade Center, they found the video camera of this person. And so they looked at the video camera, and like you could see in the film that they looked happy in all of the photographs and in the video. So then there's lots of like statements from other people that worked for the moving company. One of them said that an Israeli employee had remarked, "Give us 20 years and we'll take over your media and destroy your country." Thought that was an interesting little side note. And so eventually they were deported out of the country, but for problems with their visas. Like, they were not supposed to be in America because they're Israeli citizens. And Oh yeah, when they were another thing I forgot to mention is that when they were pulled over by the police, they said, "We are Israeli. We are not your problem. Your problems are our problems. The Palestinians are the problem." That was funny. So yeah, um, and it's weird to me that people would call that a conspiracy theory because it's like very, very strange. I don't know how anybody could find that information and think it's not strange because it's strange. And then the next one in the article, because I'm just going through the list, says Jewish neoconservatives were behind the attacks. Then it has this long paragraph about he plotted with members of the Bush administration and enlisted the help of the Mossad to implement the attacks in order to benefit Israel. This theory alleges that supporters of Israel hatched the plan well before 9/11, with the goal of invading Iraq and other Middle Eastern countries to allow the U.S. and Israel to seize control of resources and power in that area. That is also like we did go to war with Iraq, we bombed them, we did all of this stuff in the Middle East that we should not have done because of this event, and it all benefited Israel. So that's, yeah, not really a conspiracy theory. Um, and then the Jewish controlled media and government manipulated narratives about the attacks in order to prevent the truth from emerging. Just stuff like that. I mean, you can call this stuff conspiracy theories if you want to, but there is some evidence about with some of this stuff. And then this one I liked a lot. Jews or Israelis have had foreknowledge of the attacks and chose not to inform the U.S. government. One of the most common anti-Semitic myths about 9/11 states that 4,000 Jews who worked in the World Trade Center were informed by Israeli intelligence agencies to stay home from work on that tragic day. But then they just did not give any explanation for why the 4,000 Jews didn't work that day at the World Trade Center. They just said that's anti-Semitic. So I also looked into this a little bit. And, I mean, again, like you can say this one's a conspiracy theory, but the Israeli company, it is true that the Israeli company Otago received warning that something was going to happen to the World Trade Center, like a terrorist attack. They were warned about it before it happened, and they got this phone call at 7 o'clock, which was an hour and 46 minutes before. And in the end, there was only 4 Israelis that died, or 4 Jews that died. So that, I mean, that's a little suspicious to me. But I'm just going through the facts here. And then we've got Zionists exploited the 9/11 attacks to expand surveillance of American citizens, which is true that, like, they definitely expanded surveillance and were treated kind of like terrorists at TSA now because of this, just for one example. And then, then the technical details of the attacks do not add up. Therefore, the entire historical narrative must be fraudulent. That's not really what we're saying, but, and they're not technical details that don't add up. They're like huge, huge details. And just to name a few, we're expected to believe that the jet fuel melted the steel, and that's why the Twin Towers fell as fast as they did. But somehow the hijackers' passports were found in the debris. I'm not sure how that's possible, how steel can't survive that, but passports can, just paper. So that's so very, very strange. And then there's lots of stuff with Building 7. So for starters, it had a free fall lasting 2.25 seconds, which is extremely rare, if not impossible. And here's the video of that. Yeah, so I don't know about you, but that kind of just a little bit looks like a controlled demolition to me. Um, just because of how fast and orderly it fell. It's like not normal. And funny enough, a BBC reporter actually reported that the building number 7 had fallen about 26 minutes before it actually fell. So that doesn't seem planned at all. And then let's go back here. The last one that's listed is Jewish ownership of the World Trade Center. Conspiracists focused on what the Jewish owners of the World Trade Center stood to gain from its destruction. Then it talks about Larry Silverstein and all of the conspiracy theories about Larry Silverstein, but it doesn't prove any of them wrong. So Larry Silverstein was the owner of the buildings, and I also did some research on him, and he won a bid to lease and develop the building number 7 first in 1980, so he owned that one for a while. And then he signed a lease for the Twin Towers on July 24th of 2001, and he took out an insurance policy for it, and it also happened to include terrorist attacks, conveniently enough. I don't know if that's normal or not, but and in when after the 9/11 attacks, he tried to claim double the amount of insurance because there were 2 planes that hit the towers. So he tried to use that excuse to get double insurance. And he originally wanted $7.1 billion, but there was a whole lawsuit. And so he ended up getting more than what he should have gotten, which is $3.2 billion. He ended up getting $4.5 billion instead, which is, that's a lot of money. But, yeah, so that was a little interesting. Larry Silverstein is also known for, he's called Pull It Larry because there's a video of him talking with the fire chief, saying pull it, and then a couple moments later, tower number 7 falls, and so people think that he was ordering the controlled demolition, but he claims that he was just telling the firefighters to get out of there, and that's what he meant by pull it, pull the operation. But it kind of misses the point, because the point is it's weird that the owner of the building was on the phone with the fire department telling them how to do their job. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think that usually happens. You don't usually call the owner of the building to ask how to do your job when you're a firefighter. It's kind of strange. And so there's all of these things that don't add up with Larry Silverstein. And one of the things that doesn't add up, before I get into that, the last fun fact about building number 7 is that the CIA and Department of Justice shared the 25th floor. I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting note. But Larry Silverstein, another reason that's strange, is he didn't show up for work that day. And he works in the World Trade Center, and he usually goes to work every day. And this particular day on 9/11, he happened to not be there because he had a dermatologist appointment. And his 2 children, who also worked in the World Trade Center, also happened to be running late that day. So, yeah, that's a little strange, if you ask me. But let me see if I can get the video pulled up of him in an interview explaining why he wasn't there that day.
New Yorkers in general, and many people around the world.
Where were you on September 11th?
I was home. And the only reason I wasn't where I was every morning, subsequent to the 26th day of July, my mornings were spent usually at a breakfast meeting at Windows, an 8 o'clock breakfast meeting, Windows, the top of it, right? And then going down to visit with my tenants, my new tenants, at the Trade Center, getting to know them, understanding their problems and so forth, ascertaining how we could service their needs better, and which is a first one of the first things you do when you acquire a property. You begin to meet your tenants and start talking with them.
Anyways, so that is the video of Larry Silverstein. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting the way he answered that. Because it kind of looked like he was kind of trying to make it up on the spot, but I don't know. That's just me. So there's all of these coincidences that don't add up with 9/11. And I I still can't understand why people would think that it's ridiculous to point out any of these things or it's insensitive. Because if I had somebody I knew and loved that died in 9/11, I would want to get to the bottom of it because it's important to know the truth, but especially when it comes to the lives of American citizens. All right, so I finally got my camera or not my camera, my microphone to stand up on its own, so hopefully it works. But yeah, so my current event, I had a different current event planned to talk about, but I changed it last minute, obviously, because as I think a lot of people know already that Charlie Kirk was shot at a turning point he was shot at a UVU event on Wednesday, and he was killed. The reason I wanted to talk about this is because for a couple of reasons. One is because it's so important, and it's all over my Instagram feed. It's very influential because Charlie Kirk he was adored by millions of people, and he had so many people that looked up to him. And even though I didn't agree with him on everything, I very much value the work that he did in waking up Americans, and especially waking up young people. He started a revolution with young people, and I started a Turning Point chapter my last year of high school, and so Turning Point holds a very special place in my heart, and so it was just absolutely devastating. And another reason why I wanted to talk about it is because I am going to BYU, and UVU is school in Utah. And so I went to the Turning Point event, and I saw him get shot, and so I have a personal experience with it. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about that. But it's so tragic, and I still, even though I watched it happen, I still can't even believe that it happened. Because I don't know, just part of me, even after I had watched him get shot in the neck, part of me was hoping that it would be there would be a miracle, or it'd be like a Trump situation where it really wasn't that bad. But obviously it wasn't like that, and it was just devastating to me. And I'm not entirely sure if this is true. I've heard from a couple of sources, like BBC, I think, but I'm not totally sure if it's true, so don't quote me on it. But I heard from a couple of people that his wife and kids were there. And even if his wife and kids weren't there, I can't even imagine losing somebody, losing a father or losing a husband in this graphic of a way in front of this many people. It was a brutal, violent public execution. And I just have no words. It's so tragic. I can't even imagine. And the amount of people on Instagram, most of them not people that I know personally, but people I've seen on Instagram that are liberal are celebrating it. Thankfully, there's some liberals who aren't celebrating it, but there are others that just shamelessly celebrate that he died. And putting politics aside, no matter what your political views are, I don't know how you could possibly ever in a million years celebrate the death of a father because he was speaking. All he did was speak at an event. He wasn't doing anything violent. He wasn't even being hateful when he was speaking. He was nothing but respectful. And moments before his death, he was sorry. Moments before his death, he celebrated Mormons and our culture that we have in Utah of how we have tons of children and we have a deep-rooted faith in Jesus Christ, and he applauded us for that. And so it's so tragic that such a great man could go out this way at such a young age. He was only 31. And I just can't even imagine it. And what's sickening is that, I mean, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints published a statement on it, which I thought was amazing. I loved that. But the sickening part was the comments that were saying, why would you talk about this? This is a political issue. You shouldn't talk about this. Or like, why do you talk about this and you don't talk about this thing that happened in Florida? And it's like, why can't you just for a second be, I don't know, just be sad that somebody died instead of having to complain about politics. It's so awful. And obviously the church released a statement on it. It happened at UVU. There's a ton of LDS students there. Even if it didn't happen there, it happened in Utah, which is, most people here are LDS, so that makes perfect sense that they would release a statement like that. And the other people, the people in the comments were like, why didn't you talk about this thing that happened in Florida? I don't know, maybe because it happened in Florida. But it was just so, it just made me physically sick when I saw the comments. And just people online in general talking about this, because they just have absolutely no sympathy for somebody who is a father of two young children. And it's just so awful. So I was going to be right in the front row because I was planning on getting there early the morning of this event. And but thankfully I didn't get there early because I missed the bus because I went to the wrong bus stop and there was some complications. And so I walked to a different bus stop and I ended up getting there right when the event started. And so there was a large crowd of people by the time I got there. And so it was frustrating to me at first because I wanted to be in the front row and I wanted to see Charlie Kirk. So I got all of these pictures. I took lots of pictures of the protesters because I thought they were interesting. Of course, now I don't think they're interesting because it's hardly matters, but that's what I got a lot of pictures of. And so, as you can see here, there's a ton of people there. Thousands of students that watch this happen. And so I took these pictures when I was further away. I tried to get closer because I was looking for the line. I was hoping maybe I could ask a question or something. I could ask Charlie Kirk a question. So I tried to get closer in line, and so this is the only picture I took of the crowd and where Charlie Kirk was. But after I took this picture, I got a lot closer. And the only other picture after this that I took was this picture. That's just another protester that I took a picture of. But I was more down on the ground, and I wasn't directly in front of Charlie Kirk, thankfully, but I was off to the side of him. And so it was so I'm still confused a little bit because a lot of things that are coming out in the news don't really add up to me and they keep changing. At first, when Charlie Kirk got shot, I thought it was the person asking the question that shot him because um, he kept asking weird questions about shootings. And this was the second person that asked a question. So the event barely even started. It was like a little after 12:20. And so the second person started asking questions about shootings. Kept asking, I was like, why does he keep, I don't know, it was so weird. And then he had just finished his sentence and Charlie Kirk got shot. And so at first I thought it was him, and he sounded like a younger man. So I was confused when an older man got arrested, and because he was the suspect of the shooting. But then later I found out that it wasn't the old man, and he was released. And so they don't even have the shooter, which is terrifying to me, and it just angers me so much because I want to see justice with this because Charlie Kirk did not deserve that. I mean, nobody deserves that, but especially him. And he has it just angers me so, so much. And so I was so disappointed when I heard that they didn't catch the shooter. And I have no idea who it was because now I'm hearing that it was somebody from a roof that shot him from far away. But regardless, it was such a loud gunshot that I thought, it couldn't have possibly come from the roof. It had to come from the audience because I heard it come from the crowd of people. But now I keep second guessing everything that happened because I don't know. It just all happened so, so fast. And, thankfully I didn't see Charlie Kirk. I didn't have a clear view of him getting shot in the neck, but I saw him fall to the ground, and I knew that he was shot. And it was I had no idea if they were going to keep shooting people, so obviously everybody ran. But it's just still, it's still just I was there, and it still doesn't feel real to me. It still feels like that couldn't have possibly happened. Charlie Kirk has to be alive. It's just a bad dream. But it's not. And so I wanted to talk about it because it's so tragic. And even people that weren't there, I know, were crying about it because it's just absolutely terrible. And I didn't realize how much I appreciated Charlie Kirk until this. And so in the wake of this tragedy, I wanted to talk about where to go from this because it obviously happened already, but I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for more Americans to wake up. Even just at my high school Turning Point chapter, there have been more people that are signing up because of in the light of what happened. And I'm hoping that it sparks a revolution in Gen Z because we can't just this isn't a time to hold hands and be like, oh, it's fine, nobody's at fault. This is a time to rise up and stand up for what we believe in. Because we need that now more than ever before. Because if we don't stand up and do something about this, it's just gonna keep happening. The current event that I was gonna talk about before this happened was the stabbing of the Ukrainian girl on the bus, or was it a train? Can't remember because I'm not talking about it. But that video was, horrifying to watch, and everybody around her didn't do anything about it because they all just looked the other direction. They didn't care that a girl was just stabbed. And so we can't just have it be like that, and I don't think it will because this was such a prominent leader in the conservative movement that everyone cared about so deeply. And so if anything, this should wake you up, and this should be the turning point. It should be the turning point because because something is sick in our nation. Something is very wrong, and we have to do something about it. Like, we can't just sit back and do nothing. And I just can't even, like, I mean, all I'm gonna say is that we need to pray for Charlie Kirk's family, because I can't even imagine what they're going through. I can't imagine losing a father in such a terrible way, and a husband. But we also need to pray for this nation, that our generation will wake up. And we've already started to wake up before this happened, but I think that this is the final thing that will radicalize us. And so I'm trying to remember if there's anything else. But I wanted to leave you with a couple of quotes. One of them is from Charlie Kirk, and he said, "The most important thing we can do is tell..." Sorry. "The most important thing we can do is tell the truth boldly." And so I want to encourage anybody watching this, even if it's only a few people, to stand up for what you believe in, no matter what, no matter the cost. Because it's our mission. It's the most important thing we can do, is to tell the truth and to do it without being afraid. And I also would like to end with the scripture that I found today. It was on my it was the verse of the day on my scripture app that I have, and it's Doctrine and Covenants 98:13. And it says, and whoso layeth down his life in my... Sorry. Okay, I'll do it again. And whoso layeth down his life in my cause for my name's sake shall find it again, even life eternal. And so I'd like to encourage everybody who's watching this to please pray, because I truly do believe that prayer works, and to not be afraid to stand up for what you believe in. So thank you to all who are watching this, and please keep Charlie Kirk's family in your prayers. And that is all I have for today. So thank you for watching Past, Present, and Politics.